Welcome everyone to Stanley Town Council meeting held at Green House on Tuesday the 28th of January at 6:30. We'll go straight on to the agenda. Housekeeping, can I ask if everybody could either switch off or make silent the mobile phones, please? There's no planned fire drills. If the fire alarm goes off, and then to where we have to go. Item 2 is apologies for absence. We have 2 dispensations. Yes. Want us to hang on? Well, I'll hang on for 2 minutes if you don't.
Oh, there's someone trying to get in and not out.
It's in about all the time. Got that news.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, I can hear it. Oh, I can hear 2 people at 2 different sides of the room having a conversation. That's years of practice. I was thinking, well, next door. It's like when people get on the plane. Yeah, and we just have to read them. I don't think it's any of us.
So tempted to just take the ones for wheels. I guess I'm quite open. There's not a lot of high rises to kind of. So it's when we were, I was in drone strikes. And I get worried. 10 Try to take a look. That's what
Item 2 is apologies for absence. We have 2 dispensations from Councillor Thompson and Councillor Bell on medical grounds. And Gordon. We need to approve these. Can we have council approval? Yeah. Next item is item 3, declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest? No. Now I'm going to move carbon homes up onto the next thing on the agenda, and then I'm just like swapping them around. Right, so we have carbon homes here. Welcome along, to Victoria and our colleagues. Is it a presentation?
It was going to be a presentation, but it's going to be a bit of update.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting us here today. It's good to see many of you. I know many names, but I don't know all faces, so it's great. My name is Victoria Keane, and I'm the place lead at Carbon Homes. And I've been at Carbon since January 2023, and I arrived on the back of the launch of our Fair Foundations report, which many of you may have seen, which is our grassroots approach to regeneration and placemaking. And we've decided to do this work in two places where we have a lot of stock. We have fantastic communities that we work with, fantastic partners, and a real coalition of the willing. So the two places we're working are obviously Stanley and Biker, and we're piloting new ways of working in both of those places, with the hope of breaking new ground, doing things differently, and potentially then moving those ways of working to other parts of the country where we have our stock. And you'll know that when we started working on this in Stanley, we spoke to many of you, many partners, stakeholders, and the community to find out, what the community really wanted us to focus on, what kind of priorities did they have. And one of the things that came up with that very early engagement was the high street of Stanley. That was seen to be causing a sense of shame among some of the people we spoke to, but also a pride of it was theirs and what it could become again. And they also, the people we spoke to, really pointed out a number of buildings on the high street was causing blight. So we know the biggest of those was the board school. So after this consultation, we decided to take the very brave step of buying the board school. We heard that it might be available, and we looked around, we thought, well, as an anchor organisation with so much invested in the town, we thought this was a really good opportunity to take it off the market and really make a difference. So in March 2023, we bought the building, and then we went about speaking again to the community, stakeholders, strategic partners to find out what that building could become. And when we first bought it, we thought we'd be in a position to redevelop it. We did some feasibility work, and it was still a bit of a potential option. But you'll know that in September, there was the first of 3 storms, and that caused some great damage. And we also realised that the building was probably in a worse condition than we first thought. When we bought it, we obviously did inspect the building, but there were parts of the building that we couldn't get into because of asbestos. You'll know that because of antisocial behaviour, because of water ingress, and also fire and arson. It meant that there were parts of the building we just couldn't access and understand the fact that much of the building was deteriorating to the point where in September, when we had those high winds, as you're facing the building, what we call section 1, which is very unromantic, but when you look at it, the single-storey building to the left, which I'm told was the original school building, the roof collapsed, and we realised, actually, I'll bring my colleagues in a moment, they're much more technically minded than I am, but we realised that the structure just wasn't safe. So we went about appointing consultants to get a better understanding of the building, and it led us to the realisation that it would have to come down. I think at that point, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues, if that's all right, to give a sense of where we are.
I'm Foster Construction for Carbon Homes.
I'm Steve Ryden, Construction Technical Lead for Carbon.
And Rick's correct. The state of the condition of the building at the moment is pretty bad, especially on section 1, a bit to the left. So we've surveyed that, we've had a structural survey done of the whole building. And a bit to the left, we were looking at doing some removing of the coverings to look for bats. However, it's so unsafe, we can't do that. So what we've done is we've put a notification in the council, private notification for demolition. We'll not hear back from that until 10th of February. It's Tuesday. So we'll listen to what they have to say about it. But that first application is only for that section. So what we need to do, because it's so dangerous, we can't get up there and take it up by hand. We need to wait until the warmer months come in April. We need to do some bat surveys. There probably is bats in that building, but we need to know where they are. And we're not allowed to demolish without having a license to do that. So when the warmer weather comes in April, we can start those emergent surveys using ecologists. We've got an ecologist consultant on board to do that. They did want us to do some hand picking at the moment to have a look where we could, but it's just too unsafe. We couldn't put people up there to do that. So we've got them lined up, and we can start those in early April. Weather permitting. Hopefully we'll get a warm April. We're going to need to do 3 surveys. So hopefully we'll have them completely in early June, because we're going to have 3 weeks between each survey. And then once we've got that information, we can apply to Natural England for a licence to demolish. But that can take 60 weeks. And depending on what we find from the emergent survey, that'll tell us if we got materials and stuff in the building as well. And Natural England will tell us how we need to demolish that building and when. But all the likelihood is it'll be in the autumn period before we demolish.
So from a health and safety perspective, we're working closely with building control. The building has a section 78 dangerous building notice assigned to it. So from a technical perspective, we've disconnected all the services to the building. Any others saying we've installed rigid hoarding around the perimeter, just to basically we had terrace fencing up previously. Concern was that if there was an element of collapse from the building, it would go through the terrace fencing. So Carbon have invested in the purchasing of that rigid hoarding, so that hoarding will stay through the kind of keeping safe of the building currently through the demolition process, and then ultimately it will stay there until we can commence to whatever we want to do. So in terms of the kind of the safety of the building, like Foster said, we've carried out asbestos surveys, we've instructed the ecology survey, and we've got a full structural survey of the building, and we also have a consultant who is updating us kind of on a monthly basis with drone footage. So we have a drone up on the roof just to see if there is any further movement. So we are monitoring proactively the situation. See on the back September, and I think there's quite a few of us in the room. Every time we see severe weather warning come out, it's kind of that's late this night, and it's phone calls to see which director is going to be on call to answer questions. So, but we've got a company called Asset Watch in place, who will monitor the CCTV, and if there is anything happens, it'll go through to MGL, who's one of our specialist demolition contractors. So they're the ideal people that if they need to go out and do an element of making it safe, you can go out and do that. So we're putting everything in places.
Yeah, we really did get it, as you know, got a good test on Friday as well.
Yeah.
So one thing you notice as well, the hoardings which we've put on the front street, we've moved them out in the front street just to create that safe zone. Should anything come off the roof or anything else.
I think just on the back of that with the hoarding, you'll notice at the moment it's a blank facade, and we are very much aware that that could be a bit of a magnet for vandalism and graffiti. So we're looking at the moment to think about how we could add a vinyl wrap just to brighten it up. So we know that the Forge, well, you'll know that the Forge did a fantastic piece of work with us with two local schools, and they've put the photographs that the kids created on the facade. It looks fantastic. And we've had quite a few phone calls from members of the public saying, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could keep those? So at the moment, we're thinking about using those images, see if we could create that vinyl wrap in the short to medium term to brighten it up. And then we're also exploring longer term projects, community projects, working with strategic partners, community groups to think of what the next vinyl wrap might be, because that hoarding will be up for a considerable amount of time. So we're thinking of two types of wrap. One in the short term, which will be the Forge images, and then longer term, what could that be? So if anyone's got any particular interests or ideas, or organisations, community groups that you think would be fantastic for us to work with on that, do let us know. So just before, I know you probably have lots of questions, but we just wrap up. So you're aware, for the wider interventions within Stanley, we've got our action plan. A number of you were at the fantastic launch that we had. I think we had about 40, 50 people in the room. So that's our Stanley action plan. It has a series of actions that we're proposing to do, and they're under 3 themes: so homes, communities, and place. And it includes interventions on the high street and various other interventions across the town. So the next thing we're doing on the high street is we're trying to identify shop units that have been empty for a long time, and working with the town council, hotels obviously, and the county council to identify the landlords and see if we can do a bit of brokering, matchmaking, see if we can get some new tenants in there. And also the county council does have some funding to improve the facade of buildings, so that's another thing that we're looking at. I do actually have some flyers about our action plan, so I'll leave those there so you can have a look, so you can see the kind of things that we're doing. And our next stakeholder reference group meeting will be in March, so we'll make sure you're all invited, and I know a few of you have attended those in the past. We have some face-to-face, some online, and we'd like to make it a collaborative affair. So if you've got anything you would like us to talk about, let us know. But I think you're the boss, Martin. Have we covered everything?
That's everything I wanted to
Don't know. Any questions? Or...
Has anybody got any questions? Carl?
Yeah, hi. A couple of things for me. I'm Carl Marshall. I'm one of the town councillors in Stanley, and a county council as well. And just obviously, it's great to see Carmen getting on with some stuff in the town centre. And actually, it's like the leap of faith you took in the town in acquiring probably one of the biggest challenges on the high street. Is like brilliant. It's great to see a massive change of approach from Carmen when you did that. So it's great. I think what most people will be interested in is at what point are we going to sort of have a plan for it. I know you've been really gently walking your way through without coming in and saying this is what it's going to be. I think people have accepted there's going to be an element of probably social housing in there, but obviously the wider site lends itself to have a massive step change for some of the other organisations in the town in terms of usage. So at what point do you think you'll timescales wise, do you think you'll be in a place to share some of that? And I know you're probably still working that through. The second thing I wanted to ask was around partnership working, because with the best will in the world, carbon's going to sort of massive blight spot out on our high street, but it's not going to fix everything. And you alluded to the fact that you're working with the county council. I just wondered about any discussions you had with her, in particular, like the cabinet members still there, about applications into the towns fund that the new mayor has. I know Kim's keen to see some investment into Stanley, and there's a massive opportunity there with the wider region. There was a field levelling up bid that went in that includes some improving access for pedestrians and vehicles as well around the town. So I just wondered about, the county council are a big part of the jigsaw. How willing have they been, given that the building next door's been stripped out and just left for a year? And then the final thing was sort of unrelated to the work on Front Street, but was part of Carbon's place shaping work. And this was involving garage sites. So we've got some really good examples in parts of Stanley where you've been able to develop sort of these husks. And they've bedded in really well. I've been in them, really good final product. But I know there's been those sites where those garages are really valued by the people who rent them, and all the level of rent doesn't cover the cost of the maintenance of them. And you've been softly canting tenants out of those garages. But there are some certainly that I'm aware of in my ward where residents really value them and they're integral to the private housing. It's maybe in a particular sort of micro community. So just didn't know if you had any information you could share with us on the sort of phased approach you've had to those, and if there was any scope to work together with the town council and some of the residents where them garages might be important to look at community asset transfer or other things, and where they're really, really valued. Thank you.
Okay, right. I should have made a note of the first question. It's the first. So we conducted our community consultation last spring and into the summer, and really the most popular focus for us would be on something for opportunity to learn, for young people to use the space, for enterprise, for businesses, particularly for third sector, but also could there be an opportunity to bring third, public and private sector together in a space. So the theme that we're focusing on at the moment and we're testing through feasibility work is the enterprise and learning hub concept. So at the moment we've got JDDK, the architects, to create some design work for us, and that really is working on the facade, making sure that any early designs are really in keeping and speak to the local vernacular, but also is flexible internally so that we can actually start speaking to potential tenants to think about what their interests might be and what kind of space they would want and what their requirements would be and how they could maybe sit alongside other uses. So that's one thing that we're doing at the moment. We are looking at the costs of that, and we're running feasibility studies for that. And then alongside that, we are about to appoint an agent to start putting together a marketing brochure that can start testing that concept. Now that concept may not come to fruition if we find that it's just not feasible, but no, that is what we're focusing on, and we're going to see what organisations are out there, be it private sector, third sector, public sector, that might be wanting to be a tenant, and we're looking for an anchor tenant, but also some smaller tenants. We're also looking for uses that could be regular hirers. So there might be some organisations or businesses that could come in on a more infrequent basis. So I think many organisations within Stanley will probably in the next month or so, 6 weeks, get a phone call introduction from us to say, would you like to speak to this agent on our behalf? And they can walk you through what our early designs are, what kind of requirements might you have, and also what would your expectations for rent be? Because we need to think about, will this wash its face? So how much would a building of that size and scale cost to run? And do we have the organisations that are able to pay a rent? We can't offer the space free of charge. So that's a bit of matchmaking to find out who might be interested in that. So that is a theme, and there is no housing in that plan. But what we're looking at is making sure that our plans are future-proofed. So it'll be designed in a way that if we were years down the line, if we were unable to maintain and sustain it as a hub, we would then be able to convert it into housing. So you'll see when you eventually see the plans, you'll see it's designed in a way that it can be turned into 1 and 2 bedroom flats.
Time scales?
So in terms of a build.
I know you've been really cautious not.
Yeah. So realistically, I think we're looking at least 18 months. But alongside the brochure that we're developing with the agents, we're also putting together prospectus, and that's going to be used to take to funders because we can't fund it on our own. And if we don't get charitable funding, we won't be able to develop. So we've got a bid manager who's really skilled. We're working with colleagues throughout the business, and we're putting together a business plan. We're getting an idea of how much it would cost in terms of capital and revenue. And then we're also putting together the offer really to the funders to say, this is what it will become, these are the outcomes, this is the impact it would have, these are the potential partners that we could work with. So the early prospectus will probably be us standing alone, but as we get partners who might say, I'd like to be a tenant, I'd like to work with you, we can start doing it together. So for example, we've had some expression of interest conversations with the lottery, and they're again, no promises, but we're starting the conversation. But we would need, at least 1.5 to 2 million pounds worth of charitable funding, which is a tall order. So all of this comes with a health warning.
The county council support.
Yeah, so we're working really closely with them and also with Marby's team on identifying those units on the high street. What we thought from a carbon perspective, we thought if we're investing all this money in the board school sites, we need to start focusing and prioritising those units that are around the school. So we've identified those that are empty. And we've then shared that list, and the landlords that we've been able to identify, we've shared that with the county council, and they're busy at the moment trying to track those landlords down and have that early conversation with them. So these are the quite rundown empty ones that are offered at the board school. But then, for example, I know some of you are connected to Patch House. For example, we identified the fact that this fantastic new store had opened up. There was no sign, and we thought, well, actually, let's try and make a difference to the facade. And there will be other units that we identify saying, do you know what, with a little bit of investment from us, we can make a big difference. Can't do that for everybody, but I think we need to think about doing that kind of thing. And the town council are very supportive, and the county council also have some budget for the shop facades that we'd like to step into. We can only do that when we find out who the landlords are, and the landlords tell us that they're happy for us to use that to access that funding. So it's a real frustration. So any advice and help there, and then any larger pots of funding, like high street funding, we'd be really, really open to that kind of conversation. But I think, if any councillors can help us navigate those conversations with the council, that would be fantastic.
I've asked the council to have a look at the high street rental auctions, which are new powers for council. So we're waiting to hear back from them about what their plans are for that, which could be a game changer for high streets. We also, the council are doing a strategic place plans, and they've got a lot of investment into some other towns, but Stanley's not received so much funding. So they're meant to consult all that over the next 18 months. So we're aware of that. I'm meeting the leader and the cabinet member on Thursday. So if you'd like to meet the same thing to them, just drop me an email.
Sorry, I meet them at the company Stanley, are they?
They are. We're going to meet them.
So we're not company Stanley yet.
And then we are aware of a high street commission from the mayor as well, from Kim McGuinness, which she launched I think last week. So we're aware of that, and we've had meetings with the North East Combined Authority as well. So there's quite a few angles we're looking at, and we have regular partnership meetings, which the town council and the Durham Council are invited to. So they've got another one next week. So we're keeping options open with them, and there is a dialogue.
Very good.
Yes, I delivered the original bus schemes on August well. Bus schemes on the agenda. Obviously, when we originally did the first bus schemes, it was on their own side. Obviously now Carbon's got a large geographical footprint, so we have got numbers within our business plan to do more bus, and we're just identifying those sites working with assets. But one of the learnings we did have from the initial application for those bus sites is to do that desktop analysis to see who is actually renting the garages, because when a couple of schemes we did initially, people who were renting the garages weren't from the local area. We used as a lot of single like 3, 4, 5 mile away. So that's one of the stages within identifying bus sites now, is that we do that kind of initial desktop. And we also kind of do location of services, drains, etc. Because not every site is viable, and you can't do them on a step site. So there is only certain sites are applicable to bus, but yeah, it's still there, but we haven't got any live sites currently. And if there is garage sites which we're planning to demolish, which you really don't want, when I send out letters to you, just to sort of let you know that it's happening, just put down, and then we'll pull plans. So we're very happy to keep the garage sites if there's a demand there and there's a feeling from the community that they want them to be sustained. Some of them really are quite sort of outdated and need a lot of refurbishment, and just really it's unviable to have the plans for a long term, but we might be able to keep them in the interim from a sort of medium term. So I'll always let you know about the garage sites when we come.
We have another question, Councillor Stevens.
Well, the increase in order isn't a question, it's actually a comment. And that is that we really welcome you to come in here tonight to bring us up to date. But we also really have welcomed all the work that you've done with Margie, with the Stanley Town Council, and we really do want to continue doing that with you.
So thank you, absolutely. We're feeling mutual, yeah. So we're really enjoying, that collaborative approach.
Yeah.
And we want to do more of that.
Anybody do want to say something?
No, sorry, I'm going to ask a question.
Anyone else got any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you. You're more than welcome to stay, or if you need to go.
A few of us are up to Northumberland, and where else? Oh dear, Long Tyneside.
Right, we'll move on to the mayor's announcements. Since our last meeting in November, 17th, isn't it? I've attended a film screening at Clayton House's Village Hall about the miners' strike. Ox Hill Youth Club to celebrate them being awarded the King's Trust Award. Carol service at St Andrew's Church, which was a beautiful service. And I'd like to thank everyone who came along to the service. St Andrew's for us using their building, and to our events team, Alex and whoever else was involved. She's not here. For helping to organise it. It was lovely. I've also visited the Just for Women Centre, met their team, and I ended up drawing their Christmas raffle while I was there. I just want to say a big thank you because I had a lovely time when I went there. And I just hope everybody had a lovely Christmas and a lovely break and had your batteries recharged. And that's all I got for my announcements. Next item is the leader's statement.
Haven't got anything right, isn't already on the agenda.
No. Item 6 is update from Chief Officer. To you, Mum.
So just again, hope everybody had a lovely break of Christmas, although it does seem quite a long time ago now, once you're back. Just really to say, Anne and I have been both attending, the Silka training sessions, which have proved really, really important and very, very helpful. And myself and Anne and Michelle are all booked in for the election training, because obviously we're in an election year. So that will help us. In terms of things that we've attended, we had the Blooming Good Fun Awards, which was a really lovely evening, thoroughly enjoyed by everyone. We've also had the memorials in November, which went really well. Both I attended the one in Southmore in the Memorial Park, and also the one in Stanley with the Beacon Lighting. Both really well attended. And again, I'd like to thank Alex as well for the hard work that she put in with those, because they went down really well. And the feedback that we had from the DLI was really, really good. So they were very pleased, which is always good. We are, as you know, updating a lot of our policies and work plans, and we've got certain things on the agenda for membership of various groups. So that would be good, so we can get on with some of the work in hand and really progress the work that we're doing. The transfer of the allotments is well underway, and in March we, take over completely. So there's been a lot of work happening around the work with the allotments, and we've heard from Carbon Homes tonight about some of the work that we've been doing with them, stakeholder work. That's been really important. So the anchor organisations really for Stanley coming together to try and work and to improve the high street. And it's only through partnership working that we can do that. And I think that's the important part. So we are working closely with them to try. It has been, as Victoria said, at times frustrating because properties are owned by landlords, and we, in order to do any improvements, as you can't just do things to buildings that you don't own. So we've been working really hard with them and don't do that. We're also putting a lot of work in partnership working with Beamish to look at how we can sort of improve some of our events that we do and have them along and working with us to do that. So that's been really, really good. I've been down to visit Tanfield Railway. Obviously, they are in their 300th year this year. So looking at what we can do. They had their, I think, New Year's Day, they had their, I'm going to say whistle blow. Oh, that's right. I was going to say, let me get this right. Whistle blow with that. I think both Helen and Joan were there on the blowing their whistles to start the celebratory year. And I think that's really lovely, and we need to really celebrate the amazing things that we have locally in Stanley. A lot of people talk about, some of the negative sides. We do have some amazing assets, and we really need to make sure that we work with those assets and support them. And on that, we also have been working with the library services. They have the Know Your Neighbour, and they're working with us to support and enhance a lot of the things that we're going to do this year. So it's really important to do that. I've had a meeting with the MP as well, and spoken to him about the Front Street and some of the issues that we have, and asked for his support in that. So that was a useful meeting. He came in and met all the staff, and we had a very open discussion. And also, it's just a reminder, I just thought about this when I was in there, that obviously we are getting closer to the election. So anybody with any things they want to get into their mid funding, I would say it's soon as possible would be really, really helpful. So that's it from me on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for that. Next thing now is item 8, which is public participation. And I believe we do have questions from the public.
We do have one question from the public that came in from one of our residents, and it's a question about what is the use of a town mayor? Why do we have a town mayor when there are bigger priorities? So it's a question about the justification for having a mayor. So I don't know if anybody's got any comments, or I'm happy to take that away and we can work a response unless there's any. Sorry.
It's a position that isn't funded. There's no money attached to that position, so it doesn't cost Stanley Town Council anything to have a mayor, and it's just a title as opposed to, as we've got chairman, Joan is the chairman of Durham County Council, Carol is the mayor of Stanley Town Council, and it's just a position, a title. So, and the only budget that's attached to it is actually to honour our community volunteers. So we have a mayor's awards ceremony where all of the members actually nominate volunteers and people who do brilliant work in their communities in order to honour them once a year, basically, and that is the only money that they has any control over. Always assigned to it.
Yeah, I just say something. The role of the mayor, it's basically it bonds together other towns. It's something through what's Latin called the chain gang, and the officers, go on, I've done it again. No, it's all right. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. The connections we make with the other mayors and chairs in other towns and villages, in fact, because some of them are very small and some of them don't have the size of a town council like we have. Some of them are just village councils, and it just helps with the sort of, well, if you like, county cohesion. It means that you can always say, oh yes, I know that person, I know what's going on in their area, and they would do the same for us. Yeah.
Okay, are we allowed to make comments? Do you want to?
Well, is that all right?
Yes.
Am I allowed?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Julie, and I met two of the ladies around the table recently and said that I would come along to this meeting. Also met your new MP, and so I have come along to the meeting. And all I wanted to say was that as a past councillor in Yorkshire, I was born and bred in East Stanley. I have 4 names on the memorial gates at Southmore family members who died in the First and Second World War, and 1 name on the Louisa pit, so I have a vested interest. And I would like to support the town council, whether that be independent, conservative, or Labour. I don't want to be a councillor again. I'm a retired head teacher and magistrate. But since coming back, I've been back there for 4 years now, and I am a private landlord in the area. Yes, I'm very sad at the demise of the High Street, but you're not like many in Yorkshire, Grindcourt, Barnsley, the areas I taught in, worked in as an Ofsted inspector, blah, blah, blah. You're dealing with all those things. It was wonderful to hear what Corbyn said. The big thing I feel is your housing, because we build, and you are building, in the Middles, the Eveready site, all those places, wonderful. Middle class houses where people can afford mortgages. The tenants I have, and I hope they would all say I'm a good landlord and have been a good landlord, can pay their rent and pay it regularly and are good tenants, but they will never in their lifetime have deposits to buy houses. So you need, as a councillor in the county council and with Corbyn, this is just my thought, shut me up if you want to. You need houses for those people, those vulnerable people, those disabled people, those single mums who are trying hard to bring their children up well, because you have some fabulous schools. I read the Ofsted report and I read them before I came back when I retired in the area who are doing wonderfully. But you've got Villarreal School, where one of my best friends taught for many, many years, is totally oversubscribed. And my tenants, I meet with people because I still do private tutoring, and telling me we can't SEN children, and it's a national problem. We understand that. So I just think, when you're looking at housing, if Carbon can do anything to get that social housing into the area, because there are too many people living in squalid accommodation. Yeah. Okay, sorry, but that's me. So I welcome to you, it is, and I'll call you in area.
Thank you for that, Julie. Carl, you have a hand if you've got.
Just think, sorry, to jump back,
Yeah.
on what you said, I totally agree with everything you said there, but in terms of the mayor's role, I think there's two key points. One is, it's the title of a role, and it's a voluntary role, and I think that's key, that the mayor's role is a voluntary role. Any budgets aren't managed by the mayor, they're managed by the staff and the finance officer in the council, so there's a difference there. I think in terms of the role as well, it's about promoting Stanley. Because the Stanley need somebody to be fighting its corner at the minute with a negative press about over the past 6 months. So they would be the two key points that I would make. The voluntary role takes a considerable time. It's always been a voluntary role.
John, did you want to
we made a decision to take the role of mayor or not. The decision from this council was to take the role of mayor. The housing, obviously housing is a huge issue, and the special needs school, special needs school, we are very aware of the situation within special schools. There is currently a conversation going on. I'm a governor of 3 special schools, so
Is that locally or nationally? Because I know
locally. The county is very aware of the situation within the special schools, and we're trying to come up with some kind of temporary solution. It won't be the solution we want, because really what we want is to build enough special schools, purpose built, but for the needs that will only come through government funding. But we're looking at a couple of options to temporarily ease a little bit the situation in schools. But the mayor's role, we did as a council choose to change that role a number of years ago. And it does, being part of the chain gang, the current chain gang, which is in the title I hate. For smaller parish councils, it is a connection that you wouldn't have. So you do have a bit of an insight into what other parish councils do or don't do. Or it's amazing the conversations that go on around the dinner table, I have to tell you.
Anyone else got any questions? No. Move on to item 9. Confirmation of the minutes that we need to approve as a true record. So the ordinary full council meeting, which was held on the 26th of November 2024, which is attachment A. We are asked to approve. Everybody agree? For a true record? I'm sorry, yeah. You seconded. Item 10, receipt of the committee minutes, which is attachment B. We asked to note minutes of the finance and general purposes, which was held on the 10th of December 2024. move on to item 11, which is planning applications. Anybody got any planning applications they want to talk about? I know we have one coming in for the solar farm at Parkhead. I mean, you know, people can write the if you want to object, you can write the objections into John County Council. Number 12, update from Durham County Councillors. Anybody you want to go and give a report? I'm happy to. Sure, I mean, that's happy to do anything. Obviously, we're in the situation that we're ready almost to present the budget, which is going to be difficult. As always, we'll sit with bated breath to make, see what people have made decisions about. It will be difficult this year. I'm not going to lie, but having said that, we did get some extra funding from the government. So that has alleviated a little bit. I did attend the Holocaust Day, which we had in Constant this week, which was moving, really, really moving. I had a county councillor, Simon Henry, who has spoke on Monday, and it was amazing. And we had a presentation from Villarreal, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely, the work they've done was really good. And we had a dance presentation from North Durham Academy, and the singer, I have to say, we're going to sign up for the X Factor or something. She was 12, and she was the most amazing singer. And the performing arts dancers were just, it was just right. There was just something about the morning that was just right. And I say this, let's do the best. It was a very moving event to attend. Sorry, Tyler, I forgot. Sorry, did forget. And I have a car park home. Oh, it's nearly done. Just electric. Well, just electric. You can drive onto it without electric. Unless you're going electric. Yeah, that's electric. Do you want to go in?
Yeah.
I've been on a tour.
Couple of things that really, I mean, basically the financial settlement that Durham County Council's had this year is the best it's had since 2010, when the Tory Lib Dem coalition started off austerity. Quite some time ago, I thought it was going to continue for as long. There's the massive change with the Labour government readjusting the formula grant, so it now takes back into account deprivation, which was ripped out overnight by George Osborne back in the day. You've got some of the rurality gone back in there. Anybody who's looked at the council budgets over the past sort of 10 years will have seen some of the spiralling costs relating to adult social care and children's services in particular. Some massive pressures like Joan alluded to in those. And for the first time, those have had extra money pumped into them by the government as well. So I think all eyes now are on the county council. And from my point of view, what we've seen over the past 3 years of the budget from the coalition around the county is that money in the capital programme has had a real focus on Durham City, to the detriment of places like Stanley. So I'll be looking to see what's in there for our communities, what money's there to finish off the work that started 2.5 years ago on council officers, and to try and get us started with the delivery of the master plan. What was sitting there back in 2021 that we've seen absolutely nothing done against. So I think there's some big questions. The budget will be coming out in a couple of weeks. So all eyes will be on that. But I think if we don't see a rebalance of money at least starting to trickle out of Durham City into some of the outlying areas, then we're going to struggle again. There is still budget pressures. You know, the Labour government aren't going to be able to fix the golden bullet any of what's happened over the past 14 years, with the best part of 600 million quid being stripped out of Durham's budget and redistributed to some of the shires and more affluent parts of the country. But what we do have looming is a fair funding review. So effectively over the next sort of 12 months, the government will open up a consultation on how local government should be funded moving forward. It gives all of us, including the town and parishes, an opportunity to feed into that and to try and make sure that Durham gets its fair share nationally. I think it's important that when that consultation opens, that we are making a case as to why places like Stanley and many other communities similar to Stanley across the county get a better deal from this government. I think the other thing that's happened, which sort of picks up on the point that was made earlier, is the county council last week eventually signed off its housing strategy. It was knocked back around about 6 months ago at full council because there was a number of areas within there that were causing concern. The first one was around the figures where you have a cabinet member arguing with the director over the number of new council houses that were going to be built as a target in the report, and how they were going to be built, whether they were going to be new builds or whether they were going to be all the property that was bought and renovated. And I think there's probably a place for both of those in the housing strategy. I think the second issue was this issue with HMOs, and we've had issues in Stanley locally over the past sort of few months where, because of the lack of any sort of planning regulations, effectively we've had people opening HMOs in residential areas to cause problems. I've had representation from several landlords and families where mid-terrace houses have been bought up as halfway houses for people being released from prison without the right support network, without people being told about it. And it's really causing some concerns locally. And the new housing strategy, although it references HMOs, it kicks the can into the long grass. In effect, saying we'll pick this up during the development of the County Durham Plan when it's refreshed next year. Effectively, the County Durham Plan is going to be around about 18 months away by the time it goes through the various bits of statutory consultation. And I think many members of the public will be looking with amazement as to why the County Council haven't looked at some of the Section 4 notices, or to create supplementary planning documents that would at least mean that if somebody wanted to convert a family home into an HMO, for whatever intents and purposes, that there was some sort of regulation or some way for the public to have a say over the future use of these family homes through the planning system. And them powers are there now. It would mean the county council would need to do a little bit of work, but there are ways the county could be supporting communities in making sure that when we do open up HMOs, and there is a time and a place, but it's about making sure they're in the right location and there's the right support networks for them, in my view. When HMOs is built, at least the community around them have a chance to be involved in that decision and not just told when suddenly there's 3 people move into a property next door to them, and some of the other antisocial behaviour problems that is sometimes associated with the HMO. So I think it's a big missed opportunity. But I think looking forward at that, it does sort of beg the question about whether Stanley as a town council, this isn't something that I want to propose today, but it's something we need to consider as a council going forward, wants to look at some sort of neighbourhood plan, because I think housing is an issue. My view is that everybody has the right to a decent home, and across the county at the minute we have 13,500 people waiting for housing, and I think it causes problems when people are displaced away from the family network into other parts of the county without those friends and family around them when they probably need them the most through the Durham Key options. So I think it'd be worthwhile the town council starting to look at what options we have to influence the development of that plan, but also maybe looking at what powers we could draw down as a town council to get control over some of those things and try to identify the sites where we would like to see family homes built, and to make sure where there are sites that they are family homes and not just private housing to put up. So I think there's lots of things. It's okay us sitting here, so we look at this, but I think there are things that we can do as a town council. And again, that's probably a process that we need to look to kick off sort of over the next few months, really, if we want to get some influence over what's coming down the line. That's sure that's my report.
Thank you. Anybody else? Move on to, sorry.
If we look at the neighbourhood plan, we need to look to see what's going on some funding to do it. And there was funding out there, the neighbourhood plans. And it's a long piece of work, it's 18 months piece of work in the plan. But it gives us some rights within the planning that we don't have. And it allows consultation to take place with our communities, which is the absolute most crucial thing.
Right, move on to item 13. Regulation of office by failure to attend meetings and handle demanding.
Yeah,
That is attachment C.
Attachment B, number. And these read attachment B, vacation topic, so that's discussed for any questions that anyone has. Got one paper, and there's a recommendation that I asked.
Are you ready for anything about the C?
I assume that emails will be sufficient as
Email is, email is sufficient.
For that one. Next is to approve.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, we need to approve it, so can I have it? Yeah. John, second there. Very happy, and everybody's happy. Item 14 is the election preparation.
Yeah, really, it's just to say that we are attending election training, and that's to make sure that we are prepared for the upcoming election as officers, including to all the processes are carried out with what we need to do at our end. Obviously, Democratic Council will manage the elections, but we do have responsibilities at our end, and we also have responsibilities post-election. So it's just to make sure that we adhere to all the regulations and legislation surrounding that. So it's just as an update, really, to let you all know. We're not ignoring it.
That's just to know. Thank you. Next item, item 15, is the policy working group membership.
So it is to councillors have to approve an amendment to the membership and policy working group to ensure that this membership is politically balanced. And what that would entail is one Labour member coming off and an independent being attached to that group. So Alex is removing himself. And of course somebody to be
I'll go on the policy working group.
Thank you.
Item 16.
The same for the events working group membership as well. Would like council to approve the proposed amendment to the membership of the events working group to ensure again that this membership is politically balanced. So we'd like to accept the addition of a member of the Independents. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
To 17, community engagement working group.
Yeah, this started with us looking at the community engagement strategy that we have, and it's quite outdated and things have moved on. a lot since we've written. I really think it's an important piece of work, particularly if we're looking at lots of the other things like neighbour plan. And I would like to request the approval for creation of a community engagement strategy working group, and for that as well to be politically balanced. That would require 2 members from a Labour group, 2 members from Dover Independent, and 1 member from the Independents.
Are you looking for?
If you can, and if not, then
I'll let you go.
Frankie wants to go on with me.
how many to go?
Carl, did you say you would go on?
Yes, please.
And yes, one more. Oh, did you? Sorry, Janet. Anybody else on the other side of the balance? Thank you very much.
Yes. You got that?
Yeah.
Move on to item 18, the events update.
2 reports on track.
There's 2 reports in the pack. Don't think Alex will want to go through them, do you, Alex?
I've got some brief points if you want them.
You don't mind?
No spot.
Yeah.
You'll find them at attachment D and attachment E.
So your first one is Remembrance Day events. There is a slight mistake on it, so it should read Royal British Legion rather than just Royal British, but that's my mistake. Key points to take away from it. We've had very good working relationships with everybody who's been involved in it, so the security, all the organisations who've been involved, so we appreciate that. Both of the events were well attended, good feedback from both of them, so I'm very happy. The DLI were happy as well. The next one's the Christmas one. The key takeaways from that one from me is the local support that we had with it. Very good. We connected with a lot of businesses. We had quite a lot of local communities and local businesses involved in it directly, whether it's through the event itself. I mean, Spark's slightly further afield, but still pretty local because they're from North Shields. But good working relationships with everything. So from the events, very happy with both of them.
Thank you for the work, Alex. Anybody got any questions on that? No? Happy with it? Thank you. And item 19 is the date and time and venue of the next meeting, which will be Tuesday, the 25th of February at 6:30 at Anfield Plain Community Centre. Item 20 is exclusion of press and public. So that we can discuss items that fall under data protection.